we are back on the record in the matter of Angela Voss and Bobby Knight, cause number 20-3-17823. And I see that there is a person in the waiting room on the Zoom channel by the name of Mike Moore. And is that your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any preliminary issues that either party wishes to address before we proceed, Ms. Petrie Ramirez?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Knight?
No, sir.
Okay, and then I'll let the witness in. And the record should reflect that there are two staff members from Morgan Hill that are on the Zoom channel. Outside of that, there's no other participants outside of court staff. Okay, Mr. Moore, this is Judge Goodell. Can you hear me okay? And Mr. Moore, I'm not hearing your response.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, there you go. Okay, and I now see that your video is on as well, and you are being called as a witness in the matter of Angela Voss and Bobby Knight. And so I am going to swear you in to begin with, okay? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. I'd like to have you begin by stating your name and spelling your last name for the record.
I'm Mike Moore, M-O-O-R-E.
Okay, Ms. Petrie Ramirez, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Moore.
Good afternoon.
Can you state for the record what your occupation is?
I am the middle school counselor.
And do you possess any licenses?
Yes, I have my master's in K through 12 school counseling.
And how long have you been licensed?
This is year 6.
And how long have you been provided? I'm sorry. What is your connection to the parties in this case?
Well, I'm the only counselor here at the middle school, so I oversee all of the students here.
Okay. And how long have you provided counseling for the children? Hayden, Rice?
And ask the question again. I think there was an overtalk.
Oh, okay, yeah. How long have you been counseling the children, Hayden and Rice?
Hayden's an 8th grader, so 3 years is year 3, and then Rice is, a 7th grader. So.
And as the school counselor, what are the duties that you're tasked with?
So it's a lot. Depends on what the kids need. I kind of adapt to whatever the students need, whether it be one-on-one, support, coping skills, guidance. If they need a place to, work independently, if they need a quiet space. I also, any sort of support in the classroom with teachers, restorative justice meetings with students and teachers. Just trying to help build relationships and hopefully, they can come to school feeling safe and supported, and wanting to be here every day and to learn.
Okay. And in your duties, do you also oversee or form part of the formation of 504 and IEP planning?
Yes, 504, not IEP. IEP is our school psychologist and Ms. Graham, but I oversee the 504s as well.
Okay. And have you been involved in the plans for Rice's 504 plan?
Yes, we had a meeting not too long ago.
Okay. And have you been involved also in the development of a 504 plan for Hayden?
Yes.
And have you had any communications with the parents regarding the 504 plans in regards to Hayden and Rice?
Yep.
Both parents?
Yeah, I spoke to Angie not too long ago about Rice's, and we have not solidified Hayden's yet. We had a meeting, I can't remember when, but we had a meeting. And I think the nurse was looking through some of the documentation when it came to, because it's more of a health related 504 compared to Rice. We're looking at more academic support.
And can you explain what is a 504 plan for the board?
Yeah, it's just an additional support system for the kids, you know, depending on what's going on with them, whether it's an academic, behavioral health, you know, just giving them extra buffer in a way to support them in the classroom or with their peer groups. You know, for example, if there's a student that struggles with taking tests, maybe we give them an accommodation that gives them more time to take tests or extended time for homework, things like that.
And looking at Rice in this, how you just explained that you were involved in Rice's 504 plan, but can you explain a little bit about what Rice's plan involves? Yeah,
so it's a brand new plan. We, myself and Nathan Click from the WISE program, and Bobby and the teachers as well had come together, and we talked about a plan for Rice. You know, and a lot of the times when we come up with a plan for students, we want them to be to have a part of it, or at least have some sort of input. Otherwise, you know, we could come up with, you know, a bunch of different accommodations, but if they don't really agree with them, then you know, kind of defeats the purpose. So I had actually spoke with Rice before we met, just to kind of see where Rice was at, some of the accommodations that we spoke about. So I don't have the plan in front of me, but just off the top of my head, Rice has a accommodation of using a break box. So that is something that they can use to, during a specific time period in the day, they can come up to the office and use that break box. And that includes drawing or stress balls, crocheting, or not crocheting, but beading, things like that to kind of give them a breather. And then as soon as that time elapses, then Rice is able to go back to class. So that's just an example of one of the accommodations. But we talked about extended, like I said, I don't have the plan in front of me, but extended time on assignment. I sent both plans to Bobby and to Angie as well. And Angie and I had spoken over the phone about it.
Okay. And has Rice ever initiated conversations with you about the issues that they are having? No, not necessarily. She just discusses that she doesn't enjoy being at Dad's house and would rather be with Mom. But that's not something I instigate. So that's something that she just says. Okay.
Sorry, excuse me.
And have the staff at the school referred Rice to talk to you in the past?
No, I don't recall that, other than I think there was a moment where Rice had an issue in science and was kind of, they had put their head down and asked to retrieve her with them from classroom. And I believe that's when Angie had come in to pick them up, and we had chatted with Miss Olander. But there was no communication between Rice and I in terms of what was going on or the issues. So.
And talking specifically about the 504 plan, has Rice reached out to you in regards to the issues that they have, specifically when it comes to learning?
No. With learning or in the home?
No, in regards to the 504 plan, in regards to
Yeah.
educational issues.
Yeah. So like I discussed before we actually met for the plan, Rice and I had discussed, you know, any accommodations that could work for them. And Rice had agreed to the accommodations we had come up with as a team. And then I brought those to the team at the meeting and put them into place.
And when you're talking about a team at the meeting,
The WISE program.
For the WISE program? Okay.
Yep.
So when you share these issues with the WISE program, it's a complete team. Who are the team members here for RISE?
For what I remember, there was classroom teachers, myself, Bobby, Nathan Click, and then there was 2 or 3 others that I didn't know who I know they were part of the WISE program, but I don't know their names off the top of my head.
Is there a 504 team in the school versus and the WISE program? Are those 2 different teams, or is it just?
Yeah, the WISE is a totally separate. It's an outside program. It's a community-based program. The 504 team consists of myself, the classroom teachers, principal, and that's when we have a pre-meeting, kind of discuss what's going on, what's the issues. We have some preventative steps in place before we even get to that point, if we need to. Then if we have to go the 504 route, then we go that route.
And has RISE also reached out to you in regards to any gender non-conforming issues occurring?
No.
Okay. Is there a policy of non-discrimination in the school for these types of situations?
I'll refer that to Ms. Bolander. She can talk more on that than I can.
Okay. Have you talked to the parents about the gender non-conforming for RISE?
I have not personally, but like I said, the administration may have. I'm not sure.
Okay. And I want to make sure because an email was sent out earlier with exhibits. Did you receive it?
I did. I have not had a chance to look it over, but I did. I do have it.
Okay. If you can open that exhibit 356. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I would like to offer exhibit is marked as 356.
You're gonna show the exhibit 356 to this witness?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Moore, just let us know when you have been able to open up the document.
I have it.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I have it right now.
You can proceed.
Oh, sorry, didn't catch what that yet. Okay. If you can, do you recognize these records?
These are older records. It looks like an IEP evaluation. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. It includes as well as Pioneer School District records for RISE?
Exhibit 356, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this looks like from when Rice was in elementary school with Mr. Inlow.
And would the witness please restate what they said? It looks like Rice what?
Looks like this was from Rice's 5th grade year,
Okay.
elementary school, Mr. Inlow's class, according to what the exhibit says.
Okay.
And if you look at the bottom right,
Mm-hmm.
can you move to where it says page 93 of 149?
which would be about page number 28 of the exhibit, approximately. You get there and you'll take a look.
Okay, yep. I'm there.
You're there, okay. And have you seen this record before?
No,
Or
this is from elementary, so I have not seen this.
they don't provide you access?
I mean, I've looked this over when she came into 6th grade, but I haven't seen this in a while.
Okay.
This is an older record, so.
But this is Rice's record?
Yes.
From Pioneer
Yeah.
School District, correct?
Yeah, from 5th grade.
Okay. I would like to admit this exhibit, Your Honor.
You're talking about the entire
The entire
exhibit?
exhibit, yeah. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Knight, any objections to admitting exhibit number 356?
I need to look through and see what kind of years on documentation. This boss has a habit of mixing them in. It appears that all the dates are within the timeline. I have no objection.
Okay, exhibit number 356 is admitted.
And looking at this page, can you read where it says any other factors that are relevant to the action?
The evaluation team is recommending a 504 combination plan be developed to support identified areas of deficient within this evaluation, specifically regarding executive functioning skills and motivational skills.
And when does it say that the action will be initiated?
Looks like 1/21/20.
And in the top, when it indicates the purpose of this prior written notice to inform you, what does it indicate in regards to the decision of implementing the 504 accommodation? Number 1.
Yeah, it looks like it was marked refusing one to initiate.
Okay. And who makes the decisions when it comes to 504 plans to be implemented?
Well, it's the team, like I said, myself and the teachers and the administration discusses looks like from this document that she did not qualify for special education and they referred for a 504. So that's when we would take the documentation that was gathered and the data that was gathered from this, looks like, evaluation, and talking to the classroom teachers and figuring out specific combinations that could work for her.
move forward to page number 105 of 149.
Okay.
Can you read, where it's talking about, number 1?
Purpose of this prior written notice is to inform you that we are refusing to initiate.
Okay. And can you provide the reasons why this was rejected? Can you read further down?
As like the mark all items below. So 504 is the recommended route to take based off of it. Chloe did not qualify for special ed is what I'm seeing here.
And what was, after that description, what were the reasons that it was rejected on those options?
So the reason we are proposing refusing to take action is the reason the 504 accommodation plan is not being initiated. And this time is because due to COVID-19, we're currently not in our school building and we are following a distance learning plan. Mr. Knight decided to wait until the next year when Chloe transitions to middle school to create the accommodation plan with her new school team.
So when Rice moves from elementary school to middle school, you're provided with these documents, correct?
Yes.
And was there a reason why a 504 plan wasn't implemented when Rice went into middle school?
It goes for a full year, and so I have to line my dates up with this, but it's good for a full year. And then the parents can initiate anytime that they want to have a new one or revamp it or anything like that. We will always open that back up if necessary. It's a little bit looser than a IEP evaluation, for example. We can really.
I'm sorry.
Go
Ultimately,
ahead.
the decision to implement a 504 plan, when it's recommended by the school, is the parents are the ones that's supposed to make the decision when it's implemented or not?
We would like their support, yes.
Okay.
But like I said, it can last for a full year. So if it's in place for a full year, then we try to anyway, depending on circumstances. And obviously with COVID, it was more difficult to, because it was just a different style of learning. It was a different type of, it was virtual learning. So it was all new to all of us when it came to what type of accommodations we can accommodate for any student, really.
And when the school sees a child struggle when it comes to their academics, is this plan revisited?
It can be, yes, absolutely. Yep.
And if you please can move forward to page marked 147 of 142 of 149.
Okay.
You there?
Yep.
Okay. What is this document here?
Looks like her grades, excuse me, their grades
And which
for
is the trimester
trimester 3.
that's indicated in the top?
Trimester 3.
Okay. For the year.
Looks like this last year.
Okay.
Yep, 2021.
And would these grades be a concern to the school to having revisit this
Sure.
504 plan?
Yep. Yep.
And does the school, again, make recommendations to parents of implementing a 504 plan?
Also, just, to know, we did try to come up with accommodations and a 504 plan. And I believe, again, I have to look at the dates. I don't know specifically, but I believe it was around winter time, somewhere in that, where we tried to accommodate Rice with our virtual academy teacher, and we had some specific accommodations to help with that. But there was no follow through from Rice on that end. So, but we kept documenting that we were there and we were ready and willing. That was, I
And
believe, is in the winter.
you mentioned a virtual academy, so during this period, schooling was done completely virtual?
Well, I believe that they were still virtual. Yes, there was portions where we were here. I think the kids were here 2 days on, 2 days off. But I believe at that point in time that they had chose to stay virtual for the remainder of that year.
And did you reach out to, let me start again. Were you aware of the difficulties that Rice was having academically that year?
That year,
Mhm.
yeah, that's why we met, had a 504 meeting and had accommodations, and I met with the virtual academy teacher at the time to try to come up with some sort of solutions or something to help. Because it was presented to me that she was struggling, but I did not know that, obviously, because I don't see the grades as frequently as I would here on campus.
And did you reach out to Mr. Knight to discuss the academic issues and the possibility of implementing a 504 plan?
Well, the teachers typically reach out first if there's concerns on their end, and then if we go down further that route after, the preventative measures aren't working, then yes, that I would be contacted, and then we would contact parents or a parent, whoever, to see if there's something we can do.
And were any arrangements made for Rice to have any evaluations to establish a 504 plan?
Yeah, we had a meeting and a plan that was based off of the virtual academy, and to meet with myself and the virtual academy teacher twice a week to just check in. It really wasn't anything. There wasn't any sort of academic, constraints with it. It was just mainly a check-in and how can we help.
Does it usually take, how long does it usually take to develop a 504 plan and implement it?
That depends. It varies. I can't really speak on specifics because it varies student to student, depending on the amount of data we need to collect or what the issues are with the student.
And what data specifically would you be collecting to implement a 504 plan?
Well, first we look at grades. We look at how they are in the classroom. We look at what has worked in the classroom as well. We don't just look at the negatives. We look at what maybe there's strategies or a certain learning style a teacher presents that really works for them. That we want to take note of to bring to the team, in addition to anything that we need to look at that's not working in the classroom. Dynamics, or could be as simple as sitting in the back compared to sitting in the front. Like that can make a big difference depending on the kid. So look at a lot of different data points.
And are parents encouraged to form part of this 504 plan to participate?
Yeah, we would like that to happen, but it doesn't always happen. But yeah, we would like, if the parent has the right to be there, then we are more than willing to work with them.
And you indicated that Rice now has a 504 plan.
Yes.
When was it implemented?
I don't have the dates in front of me, but we met about a month ago, Bobby, I think, somewhere around there.
I believe so.
You can't respond.
Oh, sorry, I just verified. I don't have the dates in front of me, but yeah, we met about a month ago. I can get those dates if you like.
Okay.
And that was with the WISE team as well. It wasn't just me. Yeah.
It was with the WISE team.
Yeah.
Does it usually take an outside team to have these issues looked at?
Sometimes it depends on what's going on with the students and the parents and all that. There's a lot of different variables that sometimes it takes an outside resource to get things going. I don't oppose it in any way because it's just another set of eyes that could be helpful for that student. I think the more the merrier when it comes to those types of things, because we might miss something or we may not see something that's going on because they are with them and meet with them weekly and they know what's going on in the home, or we don't always know what's going on in the home. So
And did Ms. Voss ever reach out to you about implementing a 504 plan?
I don't recall, but that doesn't, I mean, in terms of like specifically, can we implement one or?
No,
what?
I'm sorry, let me rephrase the question. Did Ms. Voss ever reach out to you to get information about what would be best for Rice in regards to their grades?
Yeah, so we had spoke just recently about the accommodations. And I mentioned everything that we had talked about, the accommodations there, and to give me any feedback that Ms. Voss would like to try to implement within the plan.
Would it be is Ms. Voss included in the 504, the team for the 504 plan?
So my understanding is that Bobby has all the educational decision rights, but we discuss what the plan and what it transpired, and then we take her input. But my understanding is Bobby has all the educational decision rights and can veto or yes and no to whatever the plan may be.
And you mentioned earlier that Hayden also has a 504 plan.
Yeah, he has a pretty bad milk allergy.
Okay. Has Hayden ever reached out to you to express any issues that he's having at school?
So about 2 weeks ago, I had, I believe it's from the WISE team, myself and him met because there was a kid had splattered a milk carton and he wanted us to know about it. And so myself and the WISE counselor advocated for him that, we support this. We want you to use your voice. You need to let us know right away. We appreciate you having this concern. And we want you to know that if you do, if that's around and no one sees it, then you're more than welcome to walk away, to tell us, to let us know, just to gain the voice a little bit from his standpoint. So that's the only time that he's come to me concerned, or I wouldn't even say concerned, but first time he came to me with any acknowledgement that there was some sort of, milk where it was not supposed to be.
I would like you to refer to the exhibit that was sent to you that was marked 355.
Okay.
And these are Hayden's school records, Pioneer's school district records.
Okay.
What health issues has Hayden discussed with you?
He's never discussed any issue with me specifically one-on-one.
Okay. Has he ever reached out to you personally for counseling?
No.
Have you discussed the 504 plan or any issues that Hayden might have with the WISE team?
Can you repeat that?
Have you discussed any issues that may be presenting with Hayden with the WISE team?
No.
No.
Other than just the milk allergy from the 504 plan. But no.
And you are part of Hayden. Are you part of Hayden's WISE
I'm not on, the WISE is a separate program.
Mm-hmm.
It's an outside program.
Yes.
I'm a part of that. Once, if there is issues or if they have a concern, they may call me to talk to me about it, or if I have a concern, I could call them. It's just, it's an added addition to support the child. But if there is something that needs to be, it's not like I go and I'm with them in their meetings that they have with him outside of here.
Have they,
That
has the WISE team reached out to you about, what the focus of their services to Hayden pertain to?
Yes,
And what are those?
just to support and to be at the beginning of it was to revisit Hayden's 504 plan.
And has a 504 plan been implemented for Hayden and signed?
Yes, it's not signed yet, but we have it in place, and it's essentially the same as it was before, and the teachers have the same thing. So
Okay.
the teachers are well aware. They've been trained on for what would happen if he was exposed to milk, and our nurse has gone through that. So teachers are well aware of what his allergy is.
And when it comes to Hayden's education, if you would refer to page 141 of 149 in that exhibit 355.
Okay. Okay.
What is this document?
Looks like his grades from trimester 3 of this last year.
Okay. And again, from this document, can you conclude that he was having issues as well with his grades?
Yeah, I mean, him and a lot of other students as well. Some students don't work very well with the remote access, and I don't know specifically what he has now, so it'd be a good comparison to look at what his grades are now compared to then, and see if it was just a remote issue or if it is in-person issue. But it looks like he struggled in looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and student support. So yeah.
And so this was when he was fully remote learning, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of any current issues that Hayden's having with regards to his grades?
No, I'm not. I do not know of any current issues. I would check with his teachers.
And again, when you look at these grades, do you contact the parent who has decision making to, like, what would be the next step?
Well, the teachers would contact the parents to see if there's anything they can do first.
And you indicated that you've talked to Ms. Voss recently, earlier, is that correct?
Yes, on the phone.
And how was her demeanor when you were talking to her in regards to the 504 plans for the children?
It was fine. It's a good conversation.
Okay. Was any of the information that you provided or that Ms. Voss provided, was it helpful to understand the issues that the children were having at school?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll always consider and take in information that, I'm not going to claim to know everything, and not all the teachers are going to see it either. So it's helpful to have as many eyes and perspectives as possible so that we can, have, have the accommodations that best suit the kid and help them be successful.
And have you communicated with Mr. Knight about the 504 plan for Hayden and
Yep.
Rice?
Yep.
And have there been any issues in regards to these communications or implementations of the 504 plan?
No.
And do you think, from what you've seen with the communication with the parents, with the communications, with implementing the 504 plans for the children, would it be beneficial for Ms. Voss to have more involved presence
I
with this?
like you said, yeah. In terms of overall, be more involved. Is
Yeah.
that what you're asking?
No, if she were permitted, because right now she doesn't have any decision making, would it be beneficial for the children?
I don't know if I'm in a place to say that because I don't know the ins and outs of everything that's going on, other than I would listen. It doesn't mean that I have the authority to, make solidified plans on certain things, but I would listen to the perspectives and take account. So I don't know. I'm not going to be one to say yes or no to that. I don't know if that's appropriate for me as a counselor.
And do you have anything that you would add in regards to parents' willingness and ability to attend to the adequate education of the children, including any remedial or educations that are in their best interest?
No, other than that, we're here to support the kids and whatever they need. And, we'll always, especially from my end, I'll always listen and be an advocate for the students as well, for all the students here, including Hayden and Rice.
And is both parents' involvement with the children's programs, 504 plans and all that, is that beneficial for the children?
Yeah, like I said, I've talked to Angie and we'll have conversations and I take that input. So like I said, I'll always listen.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll turn to Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight, do you have questions
Yes, sir.
of Mr. Moore?
Good afternoon, Mr. Moore.
Good afternoon.
So, you've been working for the Pioneer School Districts for 3 years now, or 4?
6 years.
6 years, oh, okay, yeah.
This is year 6.
So you've been a part of the 504 plan pretty much from the start
Yes.
of this team, correct?
Yes.
At the beginning of the team, was it not Stephanie Terry, the director of student support, a part of the team also?
She was.
Okay.
She was I believe she was special ed coordinator.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
And during the 504 meetings, at that time, wasn't it true that Miss Terry would make contact or have contact with Miss Voss, and any information that Miss Voss wanted to put forward to the team was brought forth through Miss Terry and discussed?
Yes.
So, would you say that throughout all the 504 meetings, any of Ms. Voss's suggestions that had been brought forth to the school had been discussed in a team atmosphere to see if it would benefit Hayden in his 504 plan?
Yes.
Isn't it true that Ms. Voss continuously tries to submit mass amounts of documentation to the school and saying that Mr. Knight's not following orders and wants the school to implement all of these things that, on her part?
Yeah, I believe that was one of the reasons why Ms. Terry was the focal person when it came to communication.
Okay. Do you recall an incident with Miss Voss in the school district about a slideshow that Hayden had sent to the school district?
I do not recall that.
Okay, I'll change my direction. Has Mr. Knight ever requested to have any other counselors from other agencies participate in 504 meetings on invitations?
In regards to the WISE program,
The WISE program, and is there any other counseling agency that has came to the school to do counseling?
I don't recall. I know the WISE program is involved, but I'm not sure if there was a different program with a different counselor. I can't recall that. I remember that there was some sort of issue with a counselor that they didn't really get along with, or there was something going on. I can't remember specifically, but I know for sure that the WISE program is involved with them at the moment.
Do you remember before the WISE program was initiated at the school, if the Consejo counseling would come to the school and do counseling with the children?
Yes, they are. Yes, as long as we have the documentation that provides that, it's signatures from both parties, and yes, then they can come to the school and talk to both students.
Do you recall in the past that ever happened?
I don't recall.
Were you a part of Chloe's evaluation for that we had done a few years ago before the 504 plan was initiated?
I was not.
During the 2020 school year, when the 504 plan was not initiated, was that due to COVID shutdowns? Would it be reasonable to say that the implication of the 504 plan during the 2020 school year was postponed until the shutdown of the school was over?
Yeah, that was the indication that we were waiting until we got back. Hopefully, at that point in time, we didn't know, but hopefully back in person for this last fall. Especially because the previous 504 plan, especially for Rice, there was no follow through on Rice's end with that. So the decision was made that we wait until the fall to hopefully we come back and we can revisit.
So since COVID started and it's been a few years, with Chloe coming back or Rice coming back 2 years older, it was more appropriate to start over a fresh 504 plan to address the newest issues at hand.
Yes.
And was the 504 was the WISE program involved at that time to get this installed?
Yes.
Has it been easier to deal with the Knight family through the liaison of the WISE program?
It has.
Do you think that the WISE program is benefiting the children in their educational and development issues?
I do.
Would you recommend for the WISE program to continue as a liaison for the Knight family to reduce the conflict?
I do.
you suggest this to last a long period of time or a short period of time?
I mean, that's hard to answer. It just depends on where they're at and how much growth that they show or don't show. You know, I think that, I don't know what the program looks like and how long they keep students or not. So I think it depends on the kid and it's circumstantial. But I would advise that they stay in it for the time being.
So you're a mental health counselor. You know the law of when a child reaches the age of 13 years of age, they make their own mental health decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In your professional opinion, do you think it would be wise for Chloe to be in charge of her own mental health decisions?
No. No.
Do you think Chloe would be influenced by her mother on things that should be taken care of rather than Chloe making her own decisions?
Yeah, I don't know if I have the information to answer that. I just know from the interactions I've had with Rice and what I've seen, that there's not a lot of willing to do or to try different things to help herself. And once that is shown, then I would recommend maybe differently. But I had a conversation yesterday with Rice about, do you want to go back to virtual learning? And Rice said no. And I said, well, we need to stay in person learning. She said no. And I said, well, we got to figure this out then, because your grades aren't that great right now, and you got to be trying something different to help yourself. And I'm here for you to do that. But yeah, unless I see some growth on that end from Rice when it comes to decision making and attempting to be in class and be participating and turning things in, then I'd recommend that she would not have her own decision making when it came to mental health.
Thank you. Same question concerning Hayden. Do you think Hayden is capable of making his own decision making without any influence from others?
That's a tough one because I haven't had too many interactions with Hayden when it comes to one-on-one communication. He's pretty good at keeping to himself and he doesn't get in trouble. Good kid, and goes to class. And so that's hard for me to tell if he is equipped to be able to manage his mental health.
Okay. So, is it correct that you've made the statement you've seen that Chloe has a lack of follow-through on
Yeah.
schoolwork and any other subjects?
Yes.
Would you say that's a chronic action that she takes?
It appears to be based off of where her grades have been.
Do you think that might be from a severe depression?
I feel as though she is depressed, or they are depressed. And I've talked to Rice about this. But like I said, when there's suggestions thrown or there's accommodations or any sort of, let's try this or try that, there isn't a lot of follow through on Rice's end.
Do you think Rice needs a little more coaxing or nudging in the proper direction than most children?
It depends on what that coaxing and nudging are. That every kid's different in what works for them. So I can't really speak to that. I'm not sure, but I know that Rice definitely needs some assistance and continuing assistance for Rice to be successful in school.
So during the 504 meetings that Mr. Knight has participated in, has he provided any productive information for the team to implement?
Yes.
Was Mr. Knight knowledgeable in all of the medical needs of Hayden and Chloe?
Yes.
Did Mr. Knight also inform you that Ms. Voss has the right to give and receive all information and that you should give that to her whenever she asks?
Yes.
Has Mr. Knight ever told you not to give Ms. Voss any information?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Petrie Ramirez, do you have any follow-up questions?
No.
No? Okay, any objections to this witness being excused? Okay, so Mr. Moore, thank you. You are now excused. You can disconnect from the Zoom channel.
All right, thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
And I see that there is a person identified as Pam Linderman in the Zoom waiting room. Is that your next witness, Ms. Petrie Ramirez?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I'll bring Ms. Linderman in a moment. Okay, so Ms. Lindemann, can you hear me okay? This is Judge Goodell.
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, and if you could turn on your video device, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I see you just fine. Okay, good. And you're being called as a witness in the Angela Voss Bobby Knight matter. And I would like to begin by swearing you in. So if you would just please raise your right hand. Do you
Yes, sir.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. I'd like to have you begin by stating your name and then spelling your last name for the record.
Sure. Full name is Pamela Lindeman. L-I-N as in Nancy, D-E-M as in Mary, A-N-N.
Okay. Ms. Petrie Ramirez, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Lindeman.
Hello.
Can you state for the record what your occupation profession is?
Sure. I'm a special education advocate. I help parents develop IEPs and 504 plans for the public school district.
And what is your background in this field?
I've been doing this 25 years. And so I've been working with parents in one capacity or another. I've sat on state boards. I've worked for private disability organizations. I've worked for schools. I've created schools. And the last 14 years, I've been a full-time special education advocate. I have my own company, primarily in the state of Florida.
And what degrees, certificates, or licenses do you have?
So to be an advocate, you don't need a special certificate or a license. So I don't have any. I have a bachelor's degree, but I don't have a certificate to practice as an advocate, to be an advocate.
Objection, Your Honor. Qualifications for why is she testifying?
We'll wait for the questions, and counsel recognizes she has to lay a foundation for her questions. It's premature to be making objections at this point. You may proceed, Ms. Petrie Ramirez.
And are you a member of any professional organizations when it comes to advocacy?
So I'm a member of the Council of Parents and Advocates. It's called COPA. COPAA is the acronym. And that's the professional organization in the country for professional advocates and attorneys who practice special education, who practice in the field of special education.
And can you explain to the court what an advocate is?
Sure. So the public school district is legally obligated to help children who struggle in school. It could be academically, could be socially, emotionally, organizationally, socially. There's a number of ways. So when the child struggles and they're not meeting their academic goals, the public school district has a legal obligation to identify those children, evaluate them, and to determine if they're eligible for special education services. Special education services are provided by specially trained teachers, therapists, counselors, other personnel who have trained in how to teach children maybe how to read if they have a reading disability, how to do math differently. So when general education teachers and strategies don't work in helping a child learn, then the public school district has an obligation to determine if they're eligible for these special education services in order to help them learn differently. Okay, and so unfortunately, not all school districts always offer parents this service. A lot of parents don't know about it. And so a lot of parents need help getting what's called an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, or a 504 plan. And they need help getting the plan. They need help talking to the district. My role is to facilitate that and make sure that the district listens to the parent, follows the parent, that the district does what they're obligated to do, that they do the evaluations, and then that they write the appropriate plan, that they make sure that that whatever a child qualifies for, whatever kind of service and support they qualify for, that they receive, and that the parents' procedural safeguards are protected, that their rights are protected.
Thank you. And how many cases or students with special needs have you helped within your program?
Every year we help about 1,000 to 1,200 every year. In my lifetime, I've done thousands. I've done thousands of IEP meetings. I've participated in them as the primary advocate. And I've done it over, like I said, the course of about 25 years. I have a daughter who is disabled, and but I've trained advocates for 14 years. I have a training program. I've trained thousands of advocates. I've done a lot.
And can you explain what the difference is between a 504 plan and an IEP?
Sure. So they are both different. They're based on different federal laws, and so one's on American. And I'm not an attorney. Let's be clear on that. One is based on ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the other one is the IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So they're both a child could qualify for either one in the school district. Generally, what happens if they qualify for an IEP, they do not. It's one or the other. You generally don't have both. An IEP more often has services attached to it, and a 504 plan generally can have services, related services attached to it, but the IEP is primarily the document that has more services. So if I have a very simple little story to help people understand this, and it goes like this. So if you have a student who's a very good swimmer, and and he's a slow swimmer, he can't stay pace with his peers, then he needs help swimming faster. Well, we don't have to teach him how to swim. He knows how to swim, but he's slow. So we might give him an accommodation of flippers, and the flippers would be the accommodation that would allow him to swim faster, and that's put on a 504 plan. If we have another student who doesn't know how to swim at all, and we give him flippers and we throw him in the water, he's going to go under because he has no skill at swimming whatsoever. That student needs to be taught the skill of swimming by a certified swimming instructor. Giving him an accommodation in and of itself is not going to help him. And that's what an IEP does. That's one of the primary differences. This is an IEP provides services, a way for a counselor or a swimming coach instructor in this case to teach the child the skill. We can also provide accommodations as well, but we're primarily focusing on teaching the child different skills. That's my primary definition of the change. of the difference between the two. Children with IEPs generally get more help than a 504 plan, but there are some kids for whom a 504 plan is certainly enough, appropriate.
And when it comes to understanding the differences and complexities of IEPs and 504 plans, why is an advocate or an expert sometimes needed in order to implement these?
So parents, couple of things. Parents don't know what their rights are. Most of the time, parents know that there's something out there that the school should be doing to help their child, but they don't know what it's called. Or if they know what it's called, like a lot of parents know they need an IEP, but they don't know what that looks like. They don't know what their rights are. They don't know what they can ask for. They don't know. A lot of times, school districts will deny parents a request. So a parent might ask for an IEP, like they know their child is struggling, and they'll say, "I think he needs an IEP. He needs something to help him, or can you evaluate him so we can find out what's going on?" And unfortunately, in the current climate, a lot of school districts will say, "No, your child doesn't qualify for an IEP," or "No, we can't do those evaluations," or "Your child has really good grades. He's not going to qualify." Well, a couple of things. Number one, parents don't know that the school district has an obligation to evaluate. They just can't say no. Parents do not know that any decision having to do with the child's education as it pertains to an IEP, for example, has to be made in a group. There has to be certain members of the school district present at that meeting, and no one person can make a determination of whether or not a child qualifies for an IEP. So when parents are told, "No, we can't evaluate," they don't know what to do. They just go away. If they're told, "Well, your child won't qualify because they get good grades," that's not true. A child who has straight A's or all honors classes can qualify for an IEP, but no one in the school district takes the time to explain that. So that's what our role is. Our role is to figure out what's going on with the student, what kind of help do they need, what kind of support can the district reasonably provide for the child, how do we go about getting that support, and how do we hold the school accountable for doing what they say they're going to do on the IEP. And parents aren't aware of any of that, and school districts don't take the time to explain that, and we do.
And what are key principles that someone that's not familiar with these types of programs or any experience would need to understand in order to understand this case in particular?
Can you just repeat the question again so I can hear it again?
What are the key principles that someone who doesn't have the experience with IEPs or 504 plans would need to know in order to understand this particular case?
Objection, Your Honor. This person has no idea of our case other from me. Never met her before.
I apologize, Your
Sustaining
Honor.
foundation.
Yes, I understand, Your Honor. So, were you provided with any documents prior to this to review the needs of the children for a 504 or an IEP?
Yes, I was provided with several documents for this case today, or for our meeting today, and I was also provided with documents by Mom prior to this meeting.
And then were you able to identify the needs of the children in this case based on those documents?
So when I looked at the documents, I was looking at them, Mom wanted to know what my opinion was, just looking at the documents as to whether or not they were appropriate. And specifically, one of the concerns was why they had a 504 plan and could they have qualified for an IEP. And so in looking at the documents that she had sent me, when I reviewed the 504 plan, when I reviewed them, it was, my opinion that they could have qualified for an IEP, that an IEP could have provided a lot more support and could have held the school district more accountable than a 504 plan would have.
And when we're talking about the documents, I sent you some exhibits.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you look at exhibit 355?
Hold on. 354. Yes, ma'am. Just one moment. Oh my gosh. Hold on one second. And what's the title of that document, please?
Exhibit 355. 355.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Was this one of the documents that you reviewed?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you look at exhibit 356?
Yes, ma'am.
Was this one of the documents that you also reviewed?
Prior to this meeting, I did not review this prior to you sending it to me for this hearing.
If you move further down that exhibit, there's 504 plans for Chloe Knight
Okay, down which exhibit, Council?
and 356.
And what page are you talking about?
And
Starting at page 67 of 149, it would be page 3. The evaluation.
the evaluation summary on page 3. Yes, ma'am.
Is this one of the documents that you reviewed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Based on the documents that you reviewed, were you able to make an opinion in regards to the plans for the children?
What specifically are you referring? What do you mean by that?
In
What do you
regards
ask?
To a 504 plan or an IEP.
Objection, Your Honor. This person is not a licensed school person. She is not a psychologist. Her opinion means nothing to this case.
It's a relevance issue to begin with, and then foundation to be the second part of that. So, Ms. Petrie Ramirez, what is the relevance of this witness's opinion with regard to whether a 504 or a IEP were appropriate for these children?
In this situation, it's in regard to decision making, educational decision making, as well as understanding a little bit more of what needs the children have that need to be addressed.
Explain to me what you mean by this regards to decision making.
When you're talking about a parent advocating for their children, the needs of the children, and a parent not being able to make those decisions, it's important to understand where this parent is coming from and why it's important for them to seek out more information, pertinent information for addressing the needs of the children.
Okay, I need to understand this in the context of this case. So So we have a petition for modification based upon certain actions by Mr. Knight.
Mhm.
We have a petition for relocation brought by Mr. Knight that restricts contacts with, between Ms. Voss and the children. Where does the decision-making issue come up? Because that's a prior order that established that she doesn't have decision-making rights. Where does it fit in this case?
When it comes to the continued, limitation of the parent in regards to the children, the mother's decision-making, as well as the, in the petition for modification, where the mother is requesting, well, it's basically stating that there's been educational neglect. Well, neglect of the children's education.
Would you point to the petition and what you're referring to, please? And when I say petition, I'm referring, what I'm hearing from you is the mother's petition for modification.
Yes.
Okay.
And page 5,
Okay, just a moment. Okay, where are you?
in page 5, at the top, where it talks about education.
Okay, and so she raises a request for a change regarding decision-making.
Mhm.
Now, make the connection between the allegations in the petition and this witness's testimony regarding the children's needs of a 504 or an IE versus an IEP.
In the petition as well, in page 7, Your Honor, it does make a clear indication again of Hayden's school plans and the advocacy that's needed in order to implement.
Okay, I'm looking at page 7, and what?
Number 5.
Page 7, number 5.
Mhm.
I'm not looking at,
What is that?
I'm not seeing a 5 on page 7. I see a 14, a 15, and a 16. What are you, I'm sorry, I'm just not following right now, just gotta lead me to the right point.
And it makes direct reference to the 504 plan.
Okay, I'm looking, are you still in the petition to change petition custody order?
Yes, Your Honor.
Page 7,
Yes,
section what?
5. Number 5, Hayden's school plans and advocacy.
I see section 14, section 15, and section 16. Am I looking in the wrong document? I'm looking at the petition to change parenting/custody order,
Yes. Exhibit
filed on
301.
September 2nd, 2020.
No, there was an amended.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the amended. And what date was the amended filed?
September 21st, 2020.
September 21st, 2020. Amended petition, okay? go to page 7 of that document. Number 5.
And it's also number 5 in page 5 as well.
Number what?
In page 5,
Okay, let me read page 7
Number 5
first.
at the
Just a
top.
moment.
No, I have to object on that. We just had it.
Sir, I just gotta I have to walk through the argument of counsel, so I understand her argument, and then I will hear your reply. Okay, and then you said on page 5, part 5, okay? Okay. So now I understand the basis of your arguments with regard to the relevance of decision-making is squarely in the petition. Okay. Now, my next question then, and as we work on relevance here, with regard to this witness's opinion then, with regard to these children and the need for an IEP versus a 504 plan, what is the relevance of that?
the relevance of having an expert look at these records and that can actually demonstrate or pinpoint where there has been negligence in actually seeking out and looking after the educational needs of the children.
Okay. Okay, so your reply, Mr. Knight.
I do not feel like she stated she is not licensed. She's not even in the state of Washington. She has had no collateral information from me. I do not believe she's had any collateral information from the school. And what Mr. Ramirez wants to address, we have just addressed with the counselors and the school superintendent on a decision-making about around 504 plans and IPEs. You should have asked questions more on that subject from them and not from a person who is not qualified.
Anything further, Ms. Petrie?
Your Honor, this witness, Ms. Lindeman, is qualified. She has testified to her advocacy as being a professional advocate and having 25 years experience in the field and dealing with the schools in regards to implementation of ADA, IDA, and when it comes to IEPs and 504 plans.
Based upon the representations of counsel, the opinion of this witness would be relevant to the petition in this matter. Secondly, with regard to qualifications, the court does find that this witness is qualified to provide the type of opinion being asked by the petitioner in this matter. So the objection is overruled. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. After reviewing these documents, Ms. Lindeman, do you believe that your testimony will aid the court in understanding the facts of this case?
It depends what you're specifically asking me. I would have to have specific questions. That's a very broad question for me to answer truthfully and completely.
I'm just going to strike that question. In your experience, in your 25 years experience and expertise in doing professional advocacy, do you believe that you can explain the various requirements of public schools under the IDA, or Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and a section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973.
Yes.
Okay. And again, going back to the records that were, the exhibits that were presented, 355 and 356, that you reviewed, have you made any conclusions about the children's educational needs?
So I'm looking in the document 355. This is the one we were starting on with the evaluation for Chloe. And I have read through the evaluation, and the evaluations were completed to determine, where her strengths and weaknesses are in areas of academics, in areas like reading, writing, and math, and in areas of executive functioning skills, organization, working memory, things like that, emotional control. And so when I look through the evaluation results, academically, I look through that, but the part that concerned me when I first look at these documents was she has a lot of challenges based on the evaluations having to do with executive functioning skills and emotional skills. So when it comes to things like organizing herself, managing, her emotional control, managing planning and organizing, being able to take a big task, break it down into a smaller task, being able to complete homework independently, turn it in on time, being able to monitor her behavior, her feelings, her emotions in a moment when something happens. All of those scores, it was a brief 2 was the evaluation that was given. And in this document on, let's see, page 22 of the document in the lower right-hand corner, page 22 shows that one of the rating scales for mom, when she did this test, shows significantly elevated in almost every single area. That's a big red flag. Okay, so that's saying that with an evaluation completed, the student has a lot of challenges in this area. We don't see this.
I'm sorry, witness. We started out talking about Exhibit 355, and we're talking about
I believe
Chloe.
she's in Exhibit 356.
I apologize.
I misheard you if you said 356, as I was on 355, and I was looking at page 22. And so
yeah.
When you say
that's my mistake.
Okay, and when you say page 22, which is
page 22.
Let me get to that.
86 of 149.
86 over 149. Okay, so I see the number you're looking at, and I see the number that we look at, and I think I'm on the same page. Okay.
Okay, my apologies for that.
It's okay. If you can just direct me to where on this page you were talking about again.
All right, so it'll see at the top third of the page, it says brief -2 parent rating scale.
Okay.
And so the school gave mom, because it says parent rating scale on 12/19/2019, Angie Voss, Chloe's mother, completed the brief 2 parent rating scale. So when mom was asked presented with a series of questions, these are the results of her answering those questions. So what the results show is that she, in all of these categories, when it comes to all the characteristics and qualities you need to have good organizational executive functioning skills in the school setting, in all of these areas, she's scoring significantly elevated. In one of them, and self-monitoring, she's elevated, but all the others are significantly elevated. This is a big sign, because we don't see this all the time when kids have every single area like this. So this says she has a challenge. So my next question is, okay, what kind of support they didn't qualify her. The school did not qualify her for an IEP. with this information. They gave her a 504 plan. And then, but I would seriously argue that she should have qualified for an IEP. And one of the things I need to say is that typically school districts will support a 504 plan more than they will an IEP. And the reason for that is because, in my opinion, of doing this for a long time, 504 plans are easier for the school to implement. They can give accommodations, extra time, extra seating, extra time for testing, extra time for assignments. They can go ahead and do a whole bunch of accommodations, and accommodations are easy to implement in a school setting. The school doesn't have to teach the child anything. They don't have to invest in a special education teacher or a therapist or a counselor. So most of the time, children that, I would say, in my opinion, having dealt with a lot of these, and about 95% of kids who get 504 plans, we can go back and get an IEP because the school doesn't look at the data as far as an IEP. Now, why would the school not want to give a child an IEP? Well, an IEP is a lot more complicated for the school to implement. It requires a lot of paperwork, requires a lot of accountability. They have to collect data. They have to provide someone to help the child. So in this case, I could see where she could qualify for mental health counseling. She could qualify for some support in the school so that if she starts to feel overwhelmed, she could go to a go-to person that is available to her to help calm her down, reduce her anxiety. So these are the things that I'm looking at that she probably could benefit from in school, but they're not being provided through a 504 plan. So when you asked me earlier what's important about an advocate and the things that a parent doesn't know, a lot of parents just look at this and say, well, thank goodness. The school listened to me. They did an evaluation. They got this information. They know what they're doing. I trust them. This is really great. And they're just thrilled that the school is listening to them and giving them information, and they put a 504 in place. But the 504 isn't teaching the child any skill. It's not teaching her emotional self-regulation. It's not teaching her how to conduct herself. It's not teaching her strategies to overcome her anxiety and be more successful in school. They accommodate. So parents don't know what the difference is. They get a 504 plan. They think that's going to help. Sometimes it does, but like for this student, she needs a lot of support emotionally in the school, through the school system with her academics, and that's not happening. So parents don't know what the difference is. They're just so happy to get a plan. My professional opinion, seeing an IEP like this, I wouldn't have advocated for a 504 plan. I would have advocated for an IEP because she needs a lot of social emotional support. So that's what I see when I look at this page. And then, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to continue. I'm on a roll.
And can you move forward 2 pages, to page 88, 149?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you review this page as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were your conclusions in regards to this court?
So this is not unusual to see a discrepancy like this. So this is the teacher's rating scale, right? This is what the teachers report when they see things in the classroom. So it's when I look at this, I see the teacher showing that some of these categories she believes the students average comparatively speaking, but there still are other areas where it's significantly elevated, like the emotional control, emotional regulation index, initiate, plan, organize. These are still elevated. So these are still, even though it's not exactly similar to the parent, and it's not unusual to see that there's a difference between how a child performs in school, how a teacher sees a child, or how a parent sees a child. That's not necessarily unusual. So because children can act differently based on where they are. However, there's enough here that shows elevation that would be a trigger, a challenge for this student in school. the behavior when it comes to controlling her emotions, initiating work, organizing, being able to consistently track things and turn things in on time, her organization of materials, being able to use a planner, a calendar, whatever it is, paper, app, whatever, she still has significant issues. And I would say that I've learned over the years, when you see significantly elevated, that it means something. They don't come out with these descriptions, and it's not like, well, it's kind of a problem, but it's not a problem. When we see significantly elevated, it's a problem. So even though it's not exactly the way mom's was, it still demonstrates to me a need for help and support.
Can you move to page 86 of 149?
86. Yes, ma'am. And okay, I'm here.
I'm sorry, not that page. Looking at page 84 of 149.
Right. So this is Dad's, Mr. Knight's results of taking the rating scale.
And what were your conclusions between this one?
So Dad sees it a little differently than Mom sees it. That's not necessarily unusual. And he's scoring her, Chloe, average on more things than Mom or the teacher did. But still, there are some things that are elevated. The initiating, planning and organizing, there is a problem. So that tells me these are problems. How they're viewed by the person doing the scale as far as to what their significance is, that's different. But it tells me there's still a problem. Whether two people would see it as being more elevated than Dad is, but Dad is still seeing some challenges. And I have not spoken to Dad, so I don't know his reasoning or understanding for saying that, but for why his decision was made the way that it was. But it still shows there's a need. So even if you just took his initiating, which is significantly elevated, which has to go with being able to look at an assignment, do the assignment, know what to do, not wait, not try and figure it out, not panic or worry about what it is. It shows being able to start and move on with the task. In that area, in planning and organizing, knowing what to do when, what to do first, how to take something big, break it down into smaller manageable parts. All of those things having to do with organization materials, those are significant problems in school. Because if you can't do any of those things, or you have challenges, and then she has medical diagnoses on top of it, so that compromises it. So in addition, I would say, if I was just looking at Dad's this section, I would say, okay, maybe the social emotional the emotional piece isn't as strong of a problem from his perspective. But when I look at the others, the initiate, plan, organize, task, monitor, those are all executive functioning skills that are critical in school. I mean, you just can't make it if you can't be organized going to 7 classes or whatever it is a day. So in this case, my question is, well, why didn't the school, she would qualify for an IEP for executive functioning skills. And what they could do in that situation is what I'd be advocating for is that somebody work with her to teach her how to organize her material. Somebody check in with her every morning and every afternoon and say, Chloe, let me see your binder. Let me see your backpack. Let me see, where are your assignments that you're going to turn in today? Okay, great. At the end of the day, all right, Chloe, let's see what your assignments are. Do you have all your books, hon? Do you have the assignment pages from the teacher? Hey, you missed biology. Go back now to the biology teacher, get that document, or let's go online and figure out how to access it. So she needs someone to take the time to teach her organizational skills, and it has to be done regularly until she gains the skill. Once she proves that she is clicking for her and she's keeping track of assignments and she's turning things in on time, then you reduce the service. That's what an IEP does, and to the point where she can be much more independent. But she's not gonna. Someone has to teach her this. You know, unfortunately, some of us are born incredibly organized, and some are not. And if they're not, they need a lot of support learning that skill.
And with
So may I add something?
yes, go right ahead.
So to tie this all together with the previous questions of why an advocate, or why parents need an advocate, or a parent's perspective going through this process in school, in a public school setting, the parents don't know any of this. They don't know by looking at these scores what this means, what kind of help their child could get. They just do not understand what I just explained, that somebody could sit with her and teach her organizational skills and monitor her and work with her every day and keep her on track and help her with assignments and run interference with teachers. Parents don't even know that exists. And so so they get the results, and the school says, yeah, but she's not so bad, and look at this, dad has her as average. And I mean, they'll pit one parent against another parent. I do see that all the time. But parents don't know what's available to them. They don't know what these scores mean. And because they don't know what these scores mean, they don't know how to interpret test results, they don't know any of that, they don't know how the school what this means for their child's education skills, how it negatively impacts her, and they just don't understand the importance of these evaluations. And unfortunately, sometimes schools, and I'm not saying this happened, but it does, and I'm not saying in this case, they kind of gloss over things, and they know parents don't understand, and they take advantage of it. So I think for this student, it was a disservice not to have her have some help with organizational skills. And may I add one? I'm sorry. May I add one more thing?
Before that, you indicated that sometimes, and I wasn't clear if it was the school or if it was the child, or who were you referring to when you indicated that they put one parent confronting another.
Yes.
Can you clarify that?
Sure. So in school settings, based on my vast experience, when you have two parents involved in a situation similar to this, where there's confrontation and everything, the parents, the schools will look. It's easier for the school to do a 504 plan. It's easier for them to give her a 504 plan, not to give her mental health counseling, not to give her special education help with organization and planning, not to give her a go-to person. That's a much easier plan for the school to implement. So if, and I'm saying if one parent doesn't want, if one parent thinks that this is a satisfactory plan in their opinion, and they think that this is good and appropriate for their child, versus putting an IEP in place where there's a lot more work. I mean, it takes 4 months to qualify for an IEP. You can get a 504 plan in a week.
Let's pause.
The witness is rambling.
She she's answering the question. I'll allow the answer. You may continue.
So, thank you. So when a parent looks at this plan and they think is great, but they don't know what an IEP can do. The school knows what an IEP. They know what an IEP they could do in an IEP, and they know what it would take in order to help the student. But if one parent says, "Hey, I want the 504 plan," and another parent says, "Hey, I think she needs an IEP," it's been my experience that the school will push the 504 plan because that's an easier thing for them. Let me put it this way. The school will push whatever plan the school thinks that they want to do. Conversely, if they thought they wanted to push an IEP for whatever their reasons, then they would push the IEP, but then the parent, who thought that the, 504 was enough would have be in a different situation. The point being, schools do this all the time. And they talk parents into that their kid is doing so good and just give it time. We know this now, we're going to work on this. And parents are emotional, they're exhausted, they're frustrated, and they don't know all of this stuff. So you see a 504 plan and you say, okay, and parents don't want to ruffle feathers either. They don't want to be seen as the bad guy. They don't want their child. They're worried about retaliation and all kinds of things. And so they say, okay, let's try this. Let's try this because this sounds good and they're telling me this will work. I know it's not going to work. I know in 6 months she's still going to have the same challenges because no one's teaching her the skill. So when I was talking, if I may.
Let's pause right now. Wait till the next question. I think you answered the question.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on.
Thank you.
And you mentioned that a parent would be worried for retaliation. In these situations, what have you seen happen in regards to retaliation?
I've seen I've seen teachers become meaner to students. I've seen where before the parent questioned what the school was doing, as long as the parent was going with whatever the recommendation was, things would be fine. But I've had teachers who would become mean to students. They say mean things. They'll say things like, well, your parent wanted this done, or your mom insisted on this, and so now we have to do it. There's a lot of insensitivity and meanness that goes on. I've seen where accommodations, things on an IEP aren't being followed the way that they're supposed to. So I've seen where schools shut out parents completely. They refuse to email or correspond or communicate with the parent at all. I've seen where principals have told parents, you are not allowed to talk to your child's teachers. All communication must go through me. So I've seen there's a number of ways.
Thank you. And in regards to Hayden, what was your opinion when looking at his records?
Okay, so where are we? Do you want to give me a page? Hold on.
Exhibit 355.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So anything specific? You just want me to review this? Similar, this is a 504 plan. Yes.
Did you review this plan?
Yes, I reviewed this information. So, yes. So.
And what was your opinion about having Hayden with a 504 plan, or was there a need also for him to have an IEP based on the information you read?
The thing about Hayden that struck me is that he has an incredible amount of stress regarding, all of his medical challenges and his milk allergy. I mean, because there's a lot of information, about the milk allergy. Like, he has an incredible amount of stress. I feel so bad for him. He is so stressed out that he doesn't even want to sit at a lunch table with another student, only him and another student, who has milk with any food product that has milk in it.
Let's pause for a moment.
This is hearsay. She has not been able to speak with Hayden at all. She is merely hearsay from reading what the documents that Ms. Voss has put forward. She don't have any knowledge of Hayden, so she cannot tell how stressed he is. She's not a psychologist. She does not have any mental degree. This is simply an opinion from somebody in Florida.
Your response, Ms. Petrie?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe she's making the recommendations based on this record and based on what all is included in this record for Hayden, not only the 504 plans, but this additional information that Hayden provided to school, which is included here.
So, foundation, counselor, we need to establish foundation.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
She's looking at an exhibit that is many, many pages long and coming to an opinion. First of all, does she have the qualifications to reach the opinion that she's coming with, and then what is she referring to specifically?
Yes. So, like we said, she has dealt in this situation for 25 years, has the knowledge and expertise to look at the 504 plans and understand and pinpoint exactly what are the deficiencies or what are the needs of a child based on the information that she was provided. And again,
Foundation has to be more specific. You have a witness saying, I reviewed this document, this is my conclusion. You need to have, if you want to develop foundation on an opinion, you need to establish what that opinion is based upon within a document. So, sustain.
additionally to the school record, did you review any other information for Hayden?
You mean the exhibits that you sent to me? I reviewed all of those.
Mm-hmm.
So are you referring to a specific, so there's specific one?
So let's go to exhibit 357.
Yes, ma'am. And what do you want to ask me about this?
Did you review this document? Exhibit 357.
Yes. Yes, I did.
And was your opinion based also on this document as well as the other one? The 355?
I'm sorry, please repeat that.
Was your opinion in regards to the stressors that Hayden was feeling, was it based on this document as well?
Yes, it was.
Objection, res judicata. She's referring back to something from 2015. Relevance.
So, Ms. Petrie Ramirez, you're asking an opinion of a witness based upon, I don't know what time period that you are looking to right now. She has offered up an opinion that I haven't accepted yet about him being stressed. I don't know what time period you're now referring to.
I understand the exhibits, the start in 2015, but there's additional information in these communications that goes all the way up to 2020.
Okay, you need to be, again, you need to be specific.
2021.
Again, you need to be specific. I can't tell you how to do your job. I can just tell you that you need to be specific in your foundation. So far, I'm sustaining the objection.
additional question for the specificity of her opinion.
Yes, you can continue to lay
Okay.
foundation.
Okay. Did you evaluate the slides that are in page 4 of 32? Starting at 4.
Yes, I've reviewed them.
Trying to slip one past, these are not dated, but they went with the same stuff from 2015 and 2000, yes. This is just add-ons to the 2015 that she's referring to. They just don't have dates on them.
Right, she hasn't asked a question there, she's just asked whether something was reviewed.
And are these the same slides that are included in Exhibit 355, starting at page 32 of 149?
I don't know. I haven't compared the two documents. I don't know if they're identical or not.
Can you look at Exhibit 355?
Yes, ma'am. And the page you wanted me to start looking at in 355?
32 of 149.
32.
Okay.
But is the date on the top?
3/16/2018.
Okay. And
Correct.
is this the same slides? Are these the same slides that help you reach the conclusion that the child was stressed?
So I don't, so I, let's see. So some of the slides, I'm looking to see what's identical and they don't, that's identical. So there are some duplicates, but reviewing both of these is what helped me reach my opinion.
All right. So based on this slide presentation, would it be feasible to conclude that the child is stressed by having milk near him?
Objection, Your Honor. She has no psychology degree. How can she tell what a person's going to feel? She doesn't have the education for it to answer the question appropriately.
Hayden went to in preparing slides of this nature, you really don't need a psychology degree to.
Objection. It has not been proven that that Hayden did this. It all came from Miss Voss and went to the school, and it was rejected because it was obviously that Miss Voss wrote the letters.
These are not letters, this is a slideshow that.
Okay, so at this juncture, foundation has not been laid, okay, with regard to any feelings that Hayden may have, okay? And that has not been provided, a foundational basis have not been provided to the court. And then secondly, while this witness may have reviewed something, there's been no foundation laid with regard to this person in her possession, in her position as an advocate, assessing the stress of a student who is going through a 504 situation and why that is relevant to whether the student needs an IEP. Now, you may be able to get there, but right now you have not laid that foundation. Okay, so I'm going to sustain the objection at this time, and we're going to take our late afternoon recess. So we're going to start up again at 3:47.